Well, welcome to Office Hours here on Hosting.com's Agency Success Plan. So glad you're here with us today. I am with you from Portland, Oregon, here at WordCamp US, back in the hotel room, hoping all the technology is going to work out okay. We are using hotel Wi-Fi, so, we'll see what happens. But so glad you've chosen to join us today, and grateful for all the questions that have come in so far. Let me just get started again by reminding you that the link to ask questions is there in the chat, and you can ask questions at any point during the week simply by going to wpnathan.com and clicking the Ask a Question button up there at the top right. That will let you ask a question at any time. So I am here looking right out the window across the street to the the Oregon Convention Center here in Portland, where WordCamp US is happening right now. I dropped in the chat just a little bit ago the link to the live streams. So if you haven't yet seen that link, all of the sessions are being live streamed on YouTube Live, and the link to view those sessions is there waiting on you in the chat. There is currently, at this very moment, an excellent live stream, one of the ones I really wanted to attend, but office hours more important. There is the panel happening with the members of the WordPress core AI team. And so they're talking about all the cool things that are going into the next version of WordPress with some of the AI APIs that are being added to support all kinds of AI growth. So that's a very interesting topic, and that is happening in the live stream now. Those sessions will be up for recordings and replays at some point very soon. They usually turn those around really quickly at WordCamp US. Usually takes like a week at most, but since they're YouTube Live, they may just show up there automatically. I'm not exactly sure. But there's a lot of great talks. I will be speaking tomorrow at 11:15 Pacific time, so you can do the math. It's like this time. Tomorrow I'll be speaking on confident consultations. This is the scope strategy. Some of you have heard that talk before. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to presenting that talk. And as I was sharing in the pre-show, that will be happening from the stage here at WordCamp US. The same stage where, last year a few announcements were made. So it'll be interesting to step across that stage and give a talk tomorrow. I had hoped that we would have Cory Miller with us. Cory is down in the exhibitors hall, and he was going to try to connect by Zoom and give us a live look around there, but I don't see Cory on yet. There may have been some issues. So yeah, hopefully we'll have Cory join at some point coming forward. But let me just share, there was an excellent talk this morning. There's a keynote every day. The keynote this morning that happened a couple hours ago was from Danny Sullivan. Danny is a name you may recognize. He's the founder of Search Engine Watch, also Search Engine Land, and he is now retired from those ventures and has a position at Google. He's one of the directors at Google, and he gave an excellent talk on the state of how search works, why AI search is doing what it's doing, and all those things. But some of the most interesting aspects of that conversation happened in the Q&A after his talk. One of the questions he was asked was, if you were to talk to someone who's creating content today, what are a few things you would tell them to stop doing? And I thought that was a really interesting question to ask. And so he gave two particular things to stop doing. A lot of myths, for example, that are out there around SEO. The first thing he said was, stop thinking that there's something specific you need to do for Google. In other words, don't think, the word count is not an issue. People will say, oh, it has to be 500, 800, 1,000, 2,000 words. He says it doesn't matter. Stop thinking about there's something specific you have to do for Google. And the second thing he said was, don't get lost in the details. He said, what we want more than anything else is content that is helpful for people. And so write content that answers questions that people are asking, and you're going to do well in Google search. Now, at the end of that talk, also, it'll be interesting if you want to watch this on the replay. There was a question asked by a member of the WordPress community that I recognized, and she is a content writer, has a successful content site, and basically said, look, our click-through rates have tanked since the AI search overviews happened. And she said, I want to know what you're going to do to compensate those of us that are writing this great content for humans. And there wasn't a very good answer for that question, other than to say that Google recognizes that's an issue and it's being considered in all the things that they're doing. But there wasn't a really good answer. I would recommend that to go back and watch that live stream if and when that replay is available at some point. So really, really, it's a hard question to ask. Now, I will say this about Danny Sullivan. He's a good guy. Talk to anybody that knows anything about him. He's a good guy. And as I walked out of the main hall to come up here to the hotel to do office hours, he was still, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes later, he was still standing in the hallway and answering questions from people. So, he doesn't necessarily have an answer, but he was engaging people, and I appreciate that. So there you go. I wouldn't be surprised if just right across the way here, I can kind of see into the exhibitors hall or into the front area where the ballroom is. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's still there answering questions. So anyway, it's been fun so far. And there really are some extremely good pieces of content that are going to be shared here at WordCamp US. All right. Well, let's get started with your question, shall we? Let me move some windows around. I don't have my nice multiple monitor setup. I'm kind of working off of an iPad for this shared screen. So we're going to do our best and hopefully nothing will blow up. And again, if you're just joining us, several folks have joined. You can ask a question for office hours at any time. You can do that at wpnathan.com. Just go to WPNathan and click the big green Ask a Question button. That puts the question in a list, and we take those questions roughly in the order in which they are received. And if you have a question that you'd like to ask for today, the link to do so is there in the chat. So it looks like there are 8 questions in the list. So let's get started with those. And the first of those questions is from Beth Livingston. Yeah, I got this too. Okay. So Beth says, I got this email from Microsoft specific to roadmaps.com, which for the moment is still live. Microsoft Clarity will begin enforcing cookie consent requirements in the European Economic Area, UK, and Switzerland. To avoid impact to data collection and Clarity features, blah, 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 explicit consent signals, full enforcement October 31st. What is Clarity, and do I need to do this on all my sites plus customer sites? Okay, so Microsoft Clarity. How many of you remember Hotjar? That was the first big popular one of these heat map type deals, that puts it's listening in the background and watching user engagement, and it makes a heat map of what people click on and so forth. Okay, so Microsoft Clarity is a free version of Hotjar. And it's pretty darn good, especially for a free product. It's a really neat tool. It does add a little load time to the site. I have noticed that when I've played with it before. But this is Clarity. And so, Beth, my guess is at some point you signed up for Clarity and you have a user account. So they sent you an email to let you know this was going to happen. So the long and the short of it is, if you're not actively using Clarity, and there'd be a little code snippet, like, most little tags that you'd add to the head, whatever of this, maybe the footer, one of the two of the site, in order to enable Microsoft Clarity on the site. And so if you're not using Clarity on your client sites, and you don't have to worry about this. Yeah. So Class says he is using it on some sites. It's pretty good. It's not bad at all. It's a nice tool. So Beth, if you're not using it, don't worry about it. It's all good. Is anybody else using Clarity? It's been around for a very long time. All right. Karen is next. Hey, Karen. So by the way, if you want to, this is the sort of thing that is the Microsoft Clarity tool is a really great tool if you want to, well, like, for example, if you have an old site that you're going to redesign, why not put Microsoft Clarity on it for a couple of weeks and just see what people are engaging on the old site before you build the new site? It's a great tool to do that. Or, if you're trying to do some conversion optimization on your site and you're wondering why people aren't clicking your content, you can see what they did click on, right? And it's just a helpful tool. It'll even record sessions of users, which is a little creepy, but also very good information. So there you go. All right. Next is Karen. All right. Karen. I don't think this Karen is here. But the question is this. I'm really stuck on a bricks custom post type component issue. I have two custom post types, books and services. I have a component of a post sidebar that appears on the single post page, the category page, the blog page. In the sidebar, I do a query loop for services, another query loop for books. Today, I created the category archive template and put the post sidebar on it. I'm at a loss to why it's not working. And I don't, a category called verbal abuse. That sounds like fun. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. All right. So I've disabled the query merge. So this is a very brick specific question that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to answer. Our ability to do technical answers for specific product based questions like this is going to be limited unless it's just something that I personally happen to use. So I'm afraid, unfortunately, this is going to be a question for Bricks support or maybe a Bricks social media group of some sort. Yeah. Oh, Jamie, this is you. Yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I could help more with this. I have no idea why that wouldn't be working because clearly it's not, right? Um, any Bricks users that could give some insight on this question for Karen? Pardon me, for Jamie? Oh, there's two Jamies. So one of the Jamies is Karen. That's awesome. That's hilarious. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Any Bricks users have advice here? I unfortunately, Karen, I don't know how to answer this question. So you did reach out to support. I know there's a big. Did you try in the Bricks Facebook group? All right. I wish I could be more help there. All right. Doris is up next. All right. Doris is moving a domain from one Cloudflare account to another. The client's domain is registered at GoDaddy. The site is hosted on my VPS and goes through my account at Cloudflare. Now, the client wants to move the domain to registrar to Cloudflare. So following Cloudflare instructions, I set up a new account, disabled DNSSEC on existing account, and exported DNS records into the client's new account. But when I updated the name servers at GoDaddy, we got an error message that says your domain failed to move. We detected an invalid DS record on your domain. If you do not remove it, your website may not work as expected. And indeed, the website went down. Oh, lovely. So it was all working fine in Cloudflare before, so I put it back up. Yeah, so you basically reverted things. Is there a better way to move between accounts in Cloudflare? Once I get it moved, how do I remove the listing in my account? Can I just click the remove from Cloudflare link? Okay, so let me scroll back up here just for a minute. So the reason it went down is the DS records didn't match, right? A DS record is the DNSSEC record, right? And DNSSEC, if you're not familiar with that, anyone, is the type of DNS record that associates that this is the legitimate, basically, This is the legitimate DNS for the domain name. It kind of ties the registrar to the DNS, just so that there's no hijacking from one to the other. It's a security measure, and it's a good thing to do. And it's generally not a problem until you try to move a domain somewhere else, right? So let me just ask this question. Doris, are you here? Yeah, Doris. So did you when you registered the domain in Cloudflare? So, okay, you had the domain in your account on Cloudflare while the domain was registered at GoDaddy, right? And you set up a new account. You set up a new Cloudflare account for the client, perhaps, so that the domain could be registered at Cloudflare. Okay, so an account in the client's name at Cloudflare. That's great. And then you transfer the domain over to Cloudflare. Did the domain transfer complete successfully? The issue here is you have to turn on DNSSEC first at GoDaddy and give that maybe 24 hours for all the dust to settle, maybe a little bit more. And then make sure that DS record is gone, right? So there's no DNSSEC involved. Then when you move things back over, you can re-enable DNSSEC if you choose. Because if the DNSSEC record was sucked over while it was still at GoDaddy, then it's not going to match. So yeah, turn off DNSSEC, delete that record, give it a little time for the dust to settle, then you should be able to set it up correctly. DNS is at Cloudflare. Yeah. So just make sure that in your GoDaddy account, DNSSEC is turned off, and then delete the DS record. That should solve your problem. All right. We are joined by Cory Miller, who is on the floor at WordCamp US. How's it down there, Cole?
Hey, I'm so sorry I'm late. You know how it is, Nathan, at WordCamp. You can't walk around without seeing a friend. So sorry for being late. Yeah, we're here on the floor in hosting.com booth.
Awesome. So I was just telling folks about the session earlier this morning with Danny Sullivan at Google. Excellent conversation. I know the exhibit hall was an interesting place there. So maybe give us a look around.
Okay. The coolest thing you got to see is the old school arcades.
Yes.
Over here. So who's up for some junior Pac-Man?
There we go.
Name your favorite game. Asteroids. Joust. Donkey Kong Jr. And then, I mean, come on. Who's gonna play me in Speedball? So there's a big overview of the convention. All your favorite plugins and themes and hosting are right here.
All right, and walk around the corner and show them that the big pink truck in the back.
Oh yeah. Gotcha.
So it's amazing. So they've driven in the Voodoo Donuts food truck into the exhibitors hall, and there are fresh donuts at the top of every hour.
This is where they are, Nathan. I see everybody pick your favorite. Can you see that? Okay. Laser faction,
a little too small to see. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Name your favorite. Copper coconut stick. And then I'll walk out here to the main area.
Yeah, there are sessions going on right now, so maybe not quite as many people in the exhibition hall, folks, if you're not seeing a lot of folks.
The one and only Nathan Ingram is going on stage tomorrow. So this uni is pretty awesome. Here, try to get over here so I can show you pretty well. Lots of meetings, lots of people talking. Yeah, I think sessions in. That's the big hall up there.
Yes, Vern, it is a huge building.
So what's your talk on tomorrow, Nathan?
I'm talking about it's called confident consultations. It's how to structure that first conversation with a client, that discovery conversation.
The breakout rooms and stuff. Rock on. Yeah, just
So, Cory, what have you found most valuable so far about WordCamp US?
you know, for me, I think this has been my it's probably in the 50s of word camps I've been to. So don't tell anybody. I skip most of the sessions except for my friends like Nathan. It's all about the way track. It's all about so I just hang out with the sponsors hall because you can meet and talk to everybody you want to talk to right there. Tell me about that, son. So yeah, it's about that. And I mean, there's countless stories over the years. You probably have 100 of them, Nathan, but coming here where you start networking, like security, for instance, they were an agency before they were security and went to a WordCamp and someone was like, we have too much work. We need some help. And they built their agency business that eventually rolled into security. So, you know, for me, it's obviously friendships, but the relational stuff is where it's at for me. Meaningful
Absolutely.
people seeing what they're doing and too. So,
There are excellent sessions.
but
Yeah, the sessions and information you can get in lots of other ways. There's not a lot that can replace the in-person conversations and relationships.
we do a mini word camp every week, don't and our other experts. But
Indeed.
it is invaluable. I've been to some great sessions over the years.
Absolutely. Well, any final thoughts for the folks?
No, I'm glad you guys got to attend WordCamp US with me. And but thank you all, and I'm sorry for being late. But I hope you guys are awesome and doing well. And tell me what donuts you want because I'm gonna go get a donut.
I will say that I don't usually eat things like this, but I did have the maple bacon donut, and this morning, and it was off the chart.
On it. I'm on it.
It was brand new, like right out of the bake. So, well, thanks, Cory.
I'm
Appreciate
on it.
you jumping in here.
Thanks for letting me crash.
All right,
See
we'll
you,
catch up in
peeps.
a little bit.
Thank you.
Yes, WordCamp US is once a year. It is an annual event. I'm not sure where it'll be next year. It's generally 2 years in the same city. So it was here in Portland last time. And they usually announce in the final during Matt's talk at the end when the next one will be. So we will find that out soon. And I will tell you that here's a little secret, okay? Let me stop the share again. A little secret. If you want to attend something like a WordCamp US, here's a secret. Find out where the event's going to be and then do a maybe 9 months out or even a year out. Do a little search around the area for hotels, right? So I'm not at the official conference hotel, but I'm literally looking out my window at it. The event is just catty-cornered across an intersection from me. And I booked this room in January of this year, just in case I might come and just get a refundable thing, right? And then I rebooked when I saw the price dip in about March. Yeah, so just make sure it's refundable, and you can usually find a really good deal on a place to stay that's very close to the venue if you just do a little pre-planning. So estimated attendance, I think there were about 1,300 tickets that were issued. So slightly smaller than last year, but still a good size camp. Next up is Karen. All right, now which Karen is this? Okay, this is Karen. Okay. I know you've answered versions of this before, but with so much information and so many opinions out there, it's easy to get overwhelmed. What's your what's your bottom line go-to security stack for all of your client sites? And do you roll those tools into the price of your care plans, bill separately? I love this. Okay. Thank you, Karen, this is you, Karen M. This is a great question. So tools like WeWatch, Solid Security, Patch Stack can really add up. So I'm trying to get a sense of both the minimal and essential setup of your ideal security stack. If cost weren't a factor, wow. Okay. If cost weren't a factor, well, honestly, I'll just tell you what I use. Okay. I have mentioned this in other ways, in other settings, but it's important to have a three-dimensional layer, like 3D security is what I would call it. There's 3 layers of security. There's network level security, there's server level security, and there's application level security or WordPress security. So you need all 3 of these to be in place. Let me get this where it's alone. Okay. So network level security is DNS level, like before it ever gets to your server. And for that I recommend Cloudflare. And Cloudflare set up correctly. Even the free plan is excellent. It gives you access to a lot of good firewall rules and so forth. So definitely Cloudflare. Okay. Now, server level security is where you're going to get a lot of opinions from a lot of companies and so forth. Now, at hosting.com, we have Immunify 360. Immunify 360. It's fantastic. This is what we use on our server. It's included in our dedicated server that we've had with A2 Hosting, now hosting.com. And when we upgrade later this year to a virtual dedicated server, it'll have Immunify on it as well. And that's a server level malware file scanning service that also does some firewall operations as well at the server level. And it's quite good. So Cloudflare filters out a lot. At the server level, the hosting company is going to have some firewall rule, and then there's at the server level, there's Immunify protecting it as well. And so that's dealing with most of the traffic. Now, at the WordPress layer, you need a good WordPress security plugin. Now, but we have to define what is the job of a good WordPress security plugin, and that's application level security. So when the problem is, there's a lot of WordPress security plugins that are trying to do the jobs that belong in the other 2 layers. So for example, it is inefficient for a WordPress plugin to do a file level malware scan. It's just not a great way to do it. There's security issues because it's running at the same layer in PHP as the malware would be. So the malware could intercept what the scanner finds. It's just not a great way to do things. And so you want that done at the server level, above, as it were, the WordPress application layer. So at the WordPress layer, I still like and use solid security with PatchStack. And that to me is still the lightest, best application layer WordPress security plugin, because the job that it does is protect user logins with different, passkeys and 2-factor authentication. It does trusted devices. It's protecting the login. That's what a good WordPress security plugin ought to do. It's also letting you know if there are themes and plugins that are vulnerable based on whether or not they show up in a PatchStack list of vulnerable themes and plugins. And with PatchStack working in the daily site scan, you're going to see those things happen, and the PatchStack firewall is going to block any attempts to access those vulnerabilities. So for me, that is a very, very robust approach to security, and that's what I recommend. So Karen, does that get you where you want to go? It does add, the cost can really add up, and it's true. And the other part of your question was, do you include this in care plans? Absolutely. And so this is like clients. I don't want to have to explain any of this stuff to clients. Most clients, generally speaking, don't care about the details. What they want to know is my site protected, right? And if there's a problem, are you going to fix it? Can I call you? WordPress management, selling WordPress care plans is a trust decision, not really a features decision. Now, these features are really for us so that we know that what we're doing is going to work, right? It's going to be a good approach to security. So I bundle all this in the price of the care plan. The client pays a flat fee, and we pay big picture for all the licenses for the sites. So Karen, does that answer your question? Or does anybody else have follow-up questions about that? Because this is a critical part of what we do. Yeah. So, um, someone uses 2FA for admin logins, and this person thinks security plugins do nothing. A lot of them don't. That's the thing. That's why, like, if I use and recommend Solid Security still, even though I'm no longer with Solid WP, um, because it does the two-factor authentication. Like, that's what a good WordPress security plugin should do. And like a lot of folks will look at WordPress security plugins and say, you don't need all of that. And my question is, what is all of that? If all of that means all these firewall rules and scans, I agree. Like, that stuff should not be happening at the WordPress layer. That's why a lot of security plugins have a reputation for slowing down your site. They're doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing at that layer. So, there's a lot of things in Solid Security that you can do in other places. So do them in those other places if you want to. But there are features that Solid Security offers, user authentications, like even the things like vulnerable password protection, bouncing off the Have I Been Pwned database to make sure that this login is not compromised already, and making sure that themes and plugins are not vulnerable. You can do that with other things and have multiple plugins doing those jobs, or find a plugin that does them all together. The big question for me is, does the plugin do what it needs to do without being a drag on site speed? That's the issue. Karen, if we use a two-factor plugin, do we need Solid Security? I mean, not necessarily. I mean, you need to look at the feature set and see if there's anything that Solid Security offers that you're not doing elsewhere. There are things like trust. One of the big features that's important in some security plugins, Solid Security being one of them, is a trusted devices feature. So, one of the most important pieces, or one of the ways that hackers had been attacking WordPress and other sites, is by the stolen session cookie. So you log in, and if your machine somehow or your browser is vulnerable, they can steal that session cookie and immediately they can be logged in, whether or not you're using two-factor authentication or not. So, like, one of the things that Solid Security and other plugins do is this trusted devices feature that kind of puts a fingerprint together of, the computer you're on and the browser and your location. And it's this whole fingerprint, more or less, that makes this device unique, right? And that can stop those stolen session cookies attacks. And that's really one of the only things I'm aware of that can. No, that would be a pro version feature for Solid Security. And other plugins like offer features similar to that. So you just have to, is it better to have multiple plugins if you want all these features, or just find a plugin that does it all? Yeah. It's a complicated discussion. It really is. Um, that it is critical to, like, your users are the biggest threat to your WordPress security. They just are. You can keep all your themes and plugins working and up to date and great. And then one user can blow the whole thing. So you've got to have a good, some way to protect login security and guard those logins, because your users aren't going to do it. They're just, how people are. What about We Watch Your Website? I love Thomas. He's a great friend. I was hoping he'd be here. We Watch Your Website is a fantastic service. I recommend it. We do not currently use it because we're doing file level malware scanning at the server level already with Immunify. I do think probably We Watch Your Website's a little better, but I think what we have it meets our needs. Yep. Okay. Next up on the list is Beth Livingston. Elizabeth, what level is We Watch Your Website? So We Watch Your Website is a file level scanner that works with Thomas Wraith and his team. It's quite good. No, it's at the server level. All right, Beth, are you doing anything at all with AI agents? How do you see them being part of our business in any respect for ourselves or our clients? It's a great question. And honestly, uh, AI agent is, you'd have to define what you mean by that, because a lot of people use that term to mean a lot of different things. If, technically, agentic AI is something that is going to not only give you information, but do something about it. It's like, go book a ticket to this or whatever, right? So it's like deep research, but then I'm going to go do something for you. Um, I don't do much with that right now, honestly. I am cautious about letting an AI agent do something for me. This is part of the, so write a plugin is not agentic AI. This is like, I want, like, when you think of agentic AI, think of the AI takes control of a browser and goes and signs you up for a thing or books you a hotel room at some place or that sort of thing. Um, you where it's getting interesting is the merging of agentic AI with tasks in WordPress. So, there are agentic AI tools out there, for example, that you can say, like, mark this, find this product in my WooCommerce store. I want you to turn on inventory management for this baseball cap in my store. And that natural language prompt will hit the agent that will talk to WordPress and make all the settings changes for you. That's pretty cool. That is kind of agentic AI. This is where the terms start getting muddy. Okay. Now, right now, while I'm doing this, right across the street, the WordPress AI team is doing their talk on how AI is going to impact WordPress. And the tools that they've created, the different APIs they're creating to enable plugins to talk to WordPress more efficiently. And they're doing that with something called it's called MCP. It's a protocol that lets an AI agent talk to an application like WordPress. That's the future. I think agentic AI is, it's like a bus stop on the way to where we're going. Okay. There's going to be agentic things about all of this, but we're really moving into how are these AI tools going to talk to something like WordPress through this protocol to do things in WordPress. It's These changes are fast happening, and they're going to be significant. So, Beth, I don't know. I talked all the way around that. Was that a good enough answer for you? Aren't site chatbots that return info from a database an AI agent? I mean, not really. That's more of and again, this is where it gets blurry, right? Uh, in some ways, an AI agent is a marketing term, not necessarily a technical term. The lines get really blurry. So a chatbot is real. It depends on the chatbot, but most chatbots are looking at, a base of information it's been given access to. For example, all the products in my WooCommerce store, and it's using that information base to answer a question. That's generative AI. That is not really agentic AI, but yeah. So, did I completely confuse and muddy the waters, or was there any helpful information in that whatsoever? I don't know. Okay, so I've done my job. Beth is still confused. You're welcome. Is there, feel free to clarify something in the chat if there's something better I can do. The answer to the question is I'm not really doing anything currently with agentic AI because I think the next thing is just around the corner and it's going to be more powerful. Okay. This is Stacy. I never received the slides for the SEO for LLMs. It's just SEO webinar. Cory said they'd be emailed after the webinar. They were never emailed. I found the webinar on YouTube, but not the slides. I have no idea. So that is something that I will drop into our planning Slack and let Katie know. What I will tell you is this. And Cory will tell you this as well. You've seen Katie Richards in and out of our live streams here. She is delightful and on the ball. She's the one who gets things done. So I'll make sure Katie sees that, and we'll see if we can get those out. Stacy, so if you're in agency, that I tell you what, do this. If you're in the agency success Slack, just do @Katie, and Katie Richards will pop up, and ask her or DM her, and she will give you a good answer on that. All right. I have no comment to that, Beth. All right. Next up is Ben Bradley. Hey, Ben. All right. Oh, good question. So what PHP version are you now using for all of your sites? And recommending as the version to use for a tool stack. So currently, our sites are on a mix of 8 and 8.2. So I'm going to answer the second part of this question. What am I recommending as the version to use? That would be 8.2. Do not a PHP 8.3 is not fully, it's still beta. WordPress is still beta for 8.3. You may find that your site works just fine on 8.3. You also may find that weird things happen on 8.3. So 8.2 is what I would recommend currently. So does that help, Ben? Eddie is on the cutting edge with 8.3. And again, 8.3, we've got, I've played with it. It's not fully supported by WordPress yet. So, you're kind of taking you're taking your site into your own hands at that point. Okay. Next up is Awesome Paul. All right, Paul. Okay, I know I'm wearing a black shirt today. Thank you. My question, what are your thoughts about leaving a Google review for a client? What if the client is, say, a chiropractor? This is purely hypothetical, right, Paul? And the chiropractor is 800 miles away, and you have not ever been treated by him or her, and your review is about the experience, the knowledge, and personality of the doctor. I mean, that feels icky to me. I don't think there's any, you're not going to get thrown into jail by the review police for doing this. But, I mean, I probably wouldn't just do this. If the client asked me to write a review, I might consider it. I've never had a client ask me to write a review of them. But in these reviews, really, the point here is their service. I don't know. There's a little ick factor about that to me. So instead, why don't you show the chiropractor how to make a QR code for their magic link that opens the Google reviews? Fill in the review link and make them a QR code and show them how to get reviews from actual patients. I don't know. Again, probably not a felony for the review police to track you down, but I don't know. What do y'all think? Yeah, what do you all think? Sound off in the chat. Would you do that for a client? Depends on how much they pay you, right? Hopefully that's not the case. Yeah. Okay. Next up is Elizabeth. Hey, Elizabeth. All right. I'm releasing a website to another developer. I have lots of premium plugins on the site. If I remove them, the site will break. I know I can remove my licenses, but I do not want to give over the whole site with those plugins. If I do, the site will keep working, but will not get updates if the developer does not buy them. Should I take the plugins off or wait for the developer to give me the new licenses? Okay. Elizabeth, are you voluntarily handing over control of this site to a new developer, or is this The client has selected a new developer. Deadbeat client. Okay, so you're rehoming the client. Good for you. So here's how many of you remember in the problem clients talk, there's a little line in there that when you're dealing with some clients, what you have to remember is that system trumps drama. System trumps drama. So the policy, by policy, as an agency, the licenses for our premium themes and plugins are covered as part of our website management plans. So if you no longer have a website management plan with us, we will remove the licenses from those plugins. Now, there's nothing wrong with giving the client the site with unlicensed themes and plugins, provided that you explain to them that they will not receive updates, without the licenses in place. And so that's no longer your problem. Okay. So the client and or the developer are going to have to relicense the plugins, or they're going to have to replace them and do something else. Now, I will often, this doesn't happen very often at all, but if we had a site that we rehomed to, another group last year, earlier this year. And, in the process of this, I explained it. It's all in the contract, right? They agreed to this, that the licenses were part of the care plan. And I just gave them a list of the licenses that were required for the site. So I think that's nice to do, just so they know all the things that need to be licensed. And then it's not your problem anymore. You've given the information, you've been helpful, and now it's this other developer's problem. Elizabeth says, I gave them a list, but they think it is not going to get hacked. Great. Let them think that. And maybe it won't for a little while. That's, again, this is no longer your problem. You've rehomed the dog to a new owner. You no longer have to feed the dog. I think it's helpful to tell the new owner what kind of food the dog enjoys and that they like to go for walks twice a day, right? But it's no longer your problem. Is that helpful, Elizabeth? Yeah, Paul. Yeah, if you yes and no. Well, please elaborate on how I can be more helpful. Paul's saying replacing the premium version with a free or light version. You could certainly do that. As long as your functionality exists in the free version. That just sounds like a lot of work to me. And if I'm rehoming the site, I'm not doing any extra work. Most WordPress themes and plugins that are premium will continue to work without a license. They just won't receive updates and you can't access support. There are some plugins that will, and I'm seeing more and more of this, but there are some plugins now that will lock you out of the UI if the license isn't active. And I can appreciate that. I don't like it, but I can appreciate why a plugin would do that. But it will continue to work in many cases with the settings as they were last set. You just can't get into the settings anymore. So yeah, that is Kim, thank you so much. That's a great point. And I might have gotten around to that in my head, but when you are, we have, for example, if a client is going to discontinue services or if we are rehoming a client, there's a form that they fill out that has, an agreement to, we are no longer responsible for this, and this. We get a date of the ceasing of management and they, submit an electronic signature and so forth, so that there's a paper trail that as of this date, we are no longer responsible for the website. Really good. Thanks for being with us, Karen. Sorry we couldn't answer your question earlier. Kim, 100%. Yeah, thank you for that. Elizabeth asked, why give them pro themes and plugins when they never paid for it? Okay, well, this is the GPL, right? It's the age-old debate of the code itself is not protected. Like I could give you let's use an old analogy. I could burn a CD-ROM full of premium WordPress themes and plugins and not violate any copyright law because WordPress is GPL, anything built on top of it is GPL. Now, so when premium theme and plugin companies, when they're selling things, they're not selling the code. They're selling access to updates and support. That's the way open source works. So by handing over a site with the premium code, you're not doing anything wrong. And quite frankly, they paid you to build the site with the stuff. And so that's part of the deal. I have no problem giving that stuff over. If you do struggle with giving that code over, then you could remove it, but then the site breaks. And that's just a whole lot of work. And it sounds like you've already done a lot of work for a problematic client. So I would just hand it off. Elizabeth says, I've given up some other sites, but I still get the notifications because I forgot to change my emails. Is there any way to get my name off since they don't have access? No. Unfortunately, that's local to that site. So the best thing I would do is I would go set up a Gmail filter or the equivalent thereof in your system and just send that stuff to the trash can. Then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Stacy, what about websites that offer many premium plugins and they're not the owner? Oh, okay. So these GPL mills, right? Like, what's the one that Festinger Vault that just had a lawsuit with Automatic? Yeah, I mean, they're out there for that. And, you go in, you pay a fee, you get access to all these things. But the problem with those sites is that this is a shady practice, right? It is technically legal for these GPL clubs are technically legal. But do you want to put code on your site that comes from one of these places that isn't the authentic source? I would never do that. I mean, how would you even know if somebody put, just a few little lines in one of those PHP files buried deep in a plugin that opened up the whole back end of your site to, access? Yeah, I would never do that. But technically legal. Yeah. There was the lawsuit with Automatic and Festinger Vault that was settled. And it wasn't, here's the funny thing. It wasn't a piracy issue that Automatic sued them over. It was a copyright issue because they were using the name WooCommerce. And you can't do that, right? Because that's copyright. So that's how they were trying to proceed with this lawsuit. Anyway, let's keep rolling, shall we? Next on the list and final question of the hour is Beth Livingston. Oh, what does it look like attendance-wise at WordCamp US? What is the mood? So I commented on this just a brief bit earlier, and it's a good way to sign off. I will say, and like I mentioned earlier, I had not intended to come to this camp. I was still, earlier this year when I would have been making plans to come, I don't know. It was just something about coming back here after last year, and being back in that building. But I was invited to speak, and so I changed my mind and decided to come and share and be helpful. And what I will tell you is it's not like there's a black cloud hanging around the place. People are excited to be here. And I will tell you that generally in many of these WordCamps, you don't see Matt Mullenweg. You don't see him walking around, and I've seen him walking around a lot. That says something to me. So, everyone that I've talked to, the people that I've seen, there's not a black cloud. There are some people definitely who are not here that I miss seeing, that have just chosen not to come. And I understand that because I was one of those people until, about a month ago. So, but yeah, so far it's a good camp. My hope for this camp is that, relationships are strengthened. The community continues to be strong. Having WordCamps is good for our community. And so I hope we keep doing that. All right, everybody, that is going to wrap us up. Strongly encourage you to attend the live streams. The link again to those is in the chat. It's done by room, and you can look at the schedule up in the menu to see what talks are being given in what rooms. I will be speaking tomorrow in the Mount Hood room at sometime tomorrow. I forget when that is. I think it's 11:30. Yeah, 11:30 Pacific time. So that's, what is that, 2:30 p.m.? Is that right? Am I doing the math right? Eastern? Yeah, 2:30 Eastern. Yeah. So feel free to join in there. It's a giant stage in a giant room, and it'll probably be pretty empty because you could put 400 people in that room and it would feel empty. But I will be presenting there at this same time tomorrow. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me for the last hour. This is always fun. Let me a quick blip on what's coming up next with hosting.com agency success. The link to all the upcoming live streams is there in the chat. There is a live stream coming up, not next week, but the following, Tuesday, September 9th. Daphne from the hosting.com team will be talking about SEO health checks and how to audit your site and your client sites for SEO. The 16th, I'll be talking about the power of recurring revenue and building website care plans that help to build your recurring revenue and other services that can also increase your recurring revenue and why that is so important. And of course, office hours every Thursday. One thing we did mention last time was the Agency Success Hosting Blueprint. Now make sure you sign up for that one because we're going to be talking about how to create your web hosting empire in the hosting.com servers using WHM, cPanel, setting up your client sites for max recurring revenue on a VPS or dedicated server at hosting.com. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Hope you have a lot of fun. I am heading back across the street to the venue for a lunch meeting, and I will see you all next Thursday for office hours here on hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.